The old world must have been far beyond anything we see today in our modern-day cityscapes. The buildings were certainly massive and interconnected as well. The inhabitants of these massive buildings were much larger than us, and most likely had longer lifespans. So what did this old world look like? Let's take a moment and let our imaginations run wild. When this building started to melt, it collapsed over on its side. The mountain ranges that we see today were, at one time, in the not-so-distant past, vast cities that stretched out across the plain. What we call mountain ranges, gorges, and waterfalls are actually melted buildings. Looking at these pictures with new eyes gives us a fresh perspective. The more we find out about our past, the more we realize how deep the lie actually goes. We may never know what happened to this vast civilization. But one thing is for sure, the evidence that it did exist is all around us. word apocalypse means the revealing. All is being revealed. A new layer of truth about our past has just been revealed to you. You will never look at the world around you the same again.
Now let's go over some interiors of some of these buildings that were left intact and untouched and unharmed by the X Factor event. First thing we notice is the incredible detail of creativity and glory that they build into everything. The wood here, the shapes, just everything is built by a completely different mindset being than of today. That's more profit geared. We can't build that unless there's money in it. And again, look at the glory. Notice up here the ceilings, the arches, the domes, the arches, the columns. Notice the heat damage on this right here on this railing. We'll get to that. Again, clearly built and inherited from the old world. We didn't build this. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, we did not build this. Look at the size of the doorways. They're up here. Look at the size of these windows. Look at the size of this building. It's a machine. It's jacked. And it's also heat damaged and melted and scorched at the bottom. But all these people here are in wonder because we didn't build this. We inherited this. We didn't build this. And then here we go. We didn't build this. This was here from the old world, highly advanced civilization. But as you can see, it's surrounded in sand, which was once hot, liquid, melted building, like lava, before it densified into fine grains of thoroughly cooked sand, which was building. And again, what do we see here? That height and then bone. Look at these doors. Built by a completely different mindset and bigger being. And again, these towers are jacked. Look at the domes. Look at the structure. It's incredible. Look at the columns. Look at the arches. Just magnificent. Glorious. Again, the Tartarians were outlandish, stylish. Everything they touched had to be completely decked out. Highly advanced civilization that preceded us that was wiped out by some X Factor event. Notice the incredible way they built. All the buildings are the same all over the world, made by red brick, and then you get these where it's upgraded and updated with the concrete molds over the brick to give it that new look. It's got the towers, it's got the domes, it's got the arches, it's got the columns, it's got the arched columns, it's just old world and it's inherited. And we didn't build this. Again, look at the size of these people. Look at the doors and the windows. Look how small these people are. They're down there. Again, you'll start to notice these buildings are the same all over the world. And then you'll also start to notice that looking from above was like looking down on like a Disney World. Besides the fact that it looked like a motherboard of a computer, it also looked like eye candy, if you will. It had designs. This is like a star fort here. It had, buildings that, in my view, the same way that Disney World shapes a bush to look like an animal, I think they were doing that with buildings. So when you look down from above, they looked like different things. It was like looking down on a huge train set, in my view. Slash Disney World, slash motherboard, slash eye candy, to look good from above. It's meant to look good from above, in my view, as well. And I just absolutely love this. Again, look how absolutely decked out this is. This is from the old world, inherited. We didn't build this. And again, what do you see here? Just the coolest thing ever. Again, it's like a book shelf. They extended the building here like a bookshelf just to show off here. It's magnificent. It's glorious. It's impeccable. And again, inherited from the old world. Look at the little tiles, how they like to do. And everything's decked out completely eye candy. Everything, everywhere, all the time. Everything was eye candy. And imagine a world where everything looked like eye candy. The frequencies of appreciation that you put out just from being able to see the incredible glory of what they built harmoniously together as a whole, as an empire, as an order, an old world order. Glorious. Again, everything was glorious. Look at the floor, the ceilings, the doors, everything built for a bigger being there. Look at the detail here. A different mindset. They're not making a profit on this. They're getting the glory out of being very creative. And just the detail of decking out everything they touched was glorious. It wasn't about profit. It was a different mindset. It was more about harmony and glorifying themselves and co-creating in harmony, in my view. And again, look, buildings looked like they also were machines. Towers to the domes. And again, by the way, rainbows are a proof of the dome. You can't recreate a rainbow without a reflective dome and light. Did you know that? Yes. Do the experiments yourself. You'll see that there's no curve. You can never build buildings like this on a ball or on a curve moving. It has to be flat like this and level. You can't build buildings on balls that are spinning. It's impossible. Again, from the old world, look at the arches, look at the red brick, look at the towers. And again, you're going to see these buildings with organs all over the world. And again, why did they call them organs? Perhaps they put out healing frequencies that healed your organs? And again, nobody builds like this these days. Clearly, look at the detail. Look at this. This is all inherited from the old world. Pockets of survival that made it through the X Factor event, but you still see scorch marks and and damage. You see a lot of damage. You still see the damage up there too. Look at that. But what do you see? Arches, super high ceilings. Super awesome columns with incredible styled and creative concrete molds. Just glorious. Look at the stained glass, the color. They can't even do that today, can they? I don't know. But look at everything is just completely from another world, because it was another world. It was the old world. Again, this old world was established in here for, in my view, 5,000-10,000 years at least. And then something wiped them out. Less than 1,000 years ago, as soon as maybe 600 years ago, 500. I don't know. Very recently, something wiped them out. A highly advanced civilization that has been here for thousands of years was here. Something wiped them out recently, and here we are. The parasites already have us under house arrest, wearing masks, for a virus that does not exist. Again, if it existed by now, everybody would be dead. They would all be dead. We'd all be dead. And look at the size of the people here. And then look at the size of the doors. Different size doors. This is even bigger up here. And then these bigger ones here on the sides. Still big, but not this big. Wow. You want to get in this guy's way. But look at how jacked this is. It's like a machine. And look at the creative stained glass. Look at the damage here. The black scorched marks and melting everywhere. Look, it's all heat damaged. People think that they built and carved out of granite and marble and all that. No, that's just heat damaged concrete from the X Factor event. It created all kinds of different things from the heat and pressure of this event. Buildings were turned into all different kinds of things, and we'll get to that. And again, look at this incredible looking building, all upgraded with the concrete molds over the red brick. And glorious interior. Just almost every inch of everything is decked out with something and creative. And look at the arches here, the columns. Jacked. The buildings are jacked like machines. Some of them. And then look at the arches here. It's got the upgraded molds over it. Towers, domes, columns. And look how short they are. We are here. And look how high these ceilings are. And then there's a ceiling for a door for and a ceiling in a room for that size of being. And then there's a door and a ceiling in a room for that size. And of course the one in this room is huge. A huge being could easily access this room and shelter from the weather, from the elements, if you will, which is what I was looking for. We're very vulnerable to the elements, our bodies, intentionally. Look, this is jacked. It's like a machine. This is from the old world. And again, you can clearly tell things from the old world that were left over, that we did not build. We inherited them. You'll pick up a sense, a style. Everything's outlandishly creative and decked out. Everything. I mean, look at this. Columns. I mean, this is incredible ceilings. Again, look how small the people are down here. Look how big the organs are. And there's organs in buildings all over the world. I guess you could go in there, listen to the frequencies of these things. And maybe they could heal your bodies. Get like a recharge. Look at the incredible detail. Perhaps some of these old world beings had wings. Like those monkeys. Humanoids had wings and tails. Again, when you look down, it was like eye candy. This is a star fort. Perhaps it was putting out frequencies, because when we take frequencies, you can create shapes, and the higher and more complicated the higher the frequencies, the more complicated the shapes you could make. And the lower the frequency, the less complicated the shapes you could make. So frequency made shapes, and conversely, I see it that shapes also put out different frequencies. These shapes put out frequencies, as well as frequencies creating shapes. These shapes probably were putting out a positive frequency. Looking down, this is very damaged, but you can see how this at one point was glorious and beautiful to look down on and look at. It was amazing. It obviously looks pretty damaged, but look at how glorious it looked. And again, intact, free energy right there. The color of lightning, electricity, violet, red shift, blue shift. Arches, domes, towers to the domes. Oh my, look at the color. Can you say eye candy? It looks like eye candy to me, right? I'm putting off a positive vibration right now just from looking at that thing. And again, look at this. Again, more of a machine than any type of, this right here is glorious. Look at the arches, look at the domes, look at the arch domes, and look at the towers. And then notice that you can't house anybody in that. Nobody can use office space in that. It's worthless. It's just there. It's like a monument. It's a huge building, but there's no office space there. It's like it's built for the grid, the machine, the circuit board, motherboard, Earth, instead of Mother Earth. Maybe it's motherboard Earth. Again, look at the glory here. Look at the arch, buildings connected. Incredible. Again, but you could put people in this one. Again, look at the glory. Look at the absolute incredible domes and arched columns and towers to the domes. Look at the glory. Look at the detail. Look at the creativity here. This is a whole nother world, a whole nother mindset. It goes on and on. I mean, it goes on and on. This right here is jacked. These look like transformers. These literally look like transformers at electrical power grid. And look at the size of this thing. It is enormous. And look at these towers on the left. They're jacked. And again, oh, look at this female Tartar and male Tartar. Tartar, femme Tartar. They look ferocious. They're going to get you. And again, look. 1800s. Look at all the lights everywhere. They told you there was no electricity, remember? At this time. Remember? Again, when you explore and study your own reality, you catch and understand what is real and what is not real. You catch them in all the lies. You catch them. Look at how many lights are on here. It's insane. Look at this place. It's glorious. Look at the towers to the domes. Lighting. Incredible. Mind-blowing. Glorious. Look at this. Every detail of this place has some type of beautiful artwork on it or something, man. You got columns, arches. I mean, it's glorious. It's incredible. It's out over the top. It's outlandish. Again, a bird head with the wings and like a dog body or lion body. And again, what looks like heat damaged transformers buried in hot liquid lava building, melted liquid red brick building. And look at the interior, clearly built by the old world and inherited by us. We didn't build any of this at all. Not even close. You'll never see a new building built like this, ever. It doesn't exist anymore. It just doesn't exist. We're in a different capitalistic dog-eat-dog world. If there's no profit, again, this is the height. Look at the windows, how big they are. Look how short they are. They come up halfway of the door. The real height of the being that this was built for looked pretty big. All right, taller. And again, look at the glory here, the arches. Look at the towers, the domes, the upside down ice cream cones. Incredible. Brick, all red brick. Everything red brick. Look at that. Domes, arches. Look at these depictions on the wall that they had. Arches. Look at the interior. Just completely decked out. Just glorious. Very creative. Look at the woodwork here. I mean, everything is beautiful. And again, look at this. Look at this depiction on top of buildings. Buildings to buildings everywhere. What does that remind you of? The Fifth Element. But this, they'll tell you that this was a depiction of the future and this and that, but this was really a depiction of the old world. Again, the Great Wall of China is not a Great Wall, and it's not China. It's from the old world to Tarians, and it's not a wall, it's buildings. It's the top of buildings, and it's not a wall, it's buildings. And the walkway is this right here on top of buildings. This is exactly what they think is the Great Wall of China, but all these buildings got melted all the way up on both sides. And it's just like a wall now, it's like this. That's what they think. That's all inherited from the old world. It's all melted buildings. Look at the dome here. Look at the interior. This is all from the old world. Look at all the statues. Again, more evidence that it's a highly advanced civilization. Besides the architecture and everything looks like a laptop. Look how they do the concrete molds. Looks like a laptop. Look at the incredible detail in the concrete molds here. Look at the detail in the wood here. Look at the style. It's outlandish. I love it. It's decked out to the max. Look at the wood, the dome, the squares, all emphasizing resonances, frequencies of the ether. It's all about the frequency, it looks like. To me, back then, like Tesla says, everything is frequency, vibration, and energy. Look at these organs. Wow. It's a lot of statues. Look at that. All identical concrete molds. This building is a machine. It is jacked. Arches, towers, domes. Just incredible. This is all from the old world. Look, domes, columns. Organ over here, another organ over there. I mean, what is this place? It's all inherited from the old world. Look at the size of these ceilings. It's amazing. Look at the detail in this. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. It's shiny. Oh my, uh-oh. Alright, I'm sorry, I can't help it. But when I see the wood here shine like this, I can't help it. I love how that is shining like that. Look at the detail. Look at the wood. Look at the crown here. This is amazing. Detailed, creative artwork here. Everything is amazing here. It's glorious. You have a huge high ceiling and then this stairway to go to the second floor. The columns, I can't hardly take it. I mean, look how big this place is. Look how small they are down here. These have been here for hundreds or thousands of years, but they'll tell you hundreds and even thousands in some cases. How did they have the technology and the resources and everything to build this back then, according to their narrative, okay? I told you my narrative is it was a highly advanced civilization, wiped out, so they could do anything. They had the cheat codes, if you will. They understood how it worked compared to us, if you will. Again, towers to the domes, and then another beautiful building behind it. Red brick. It's very damaged. And look at the arches here. Look at the detail. But also look at the orange and black scorch marks and damage. Look at the detail in this stair. I love how it goes up both sides and then up there and the wood here, and just look at the detail and creativity. Look at the size of that door. Look at the interior here. It's just beautiful and glorious. Like the way they do that with the wood. I mean, look at what they do with the wood. I mean, I was impressed with the concrete molds, and then I don't know how they're doing this with the wood. I mean, this is incredible. Whoops, I went the wrong way. I had to see the wood again. Let's see the arch columns here. Just glorious. Oh my, here we go. Towers, domes, and the color, and the depiction here, the eye candy. The color, the eye candy, the frequency. I mean, I'm telling you, this is what it looked like in the old world before the X Factor event. It was like this a lot. Look at the glory here. Very glorious. Look at the damage here, but still glorious. Glorious, detailed, very detailed. Again, look at the bridge. They made a bridge across building to building. Look at the columns, heat damaged. Everything's heat damaged. Arches. Oh, here we go. I love this. Because, I mean, look at how tall they are, and then look at that door. Again, it looks like a machine. Because that's what it was. Part of the grid. Damaged, left over from the old world, but the heat X Factor took its toll on this building and this building. It got X Factored by the X Factor event. Like I said, one of my theories is there were two suns. One got too close to the dome or something, and discharged to the grid, melted everything. Look at the glory here, and wiped out a lot of beings. Look at the clothing that they used to wear. Look at the collar. I mean, makes us look like, it makes us look primitive. They're not the primitive ones, we are. We went backwards. We got inverted. We went in reverse. Look at the detail here. You don't find this anywhere, ever. Nobody does this, ever, anymore, at all. Look at the heat damage here on the left. Look at the concrete, scorched, melted. But this was inherited from the old world. Look at the size of this thing. It looks like a machine. Look at the towers and the domes, and look at the black scorch marks on the roof, of course. Arches, oh my goodness, look at that. Ugh, I love that crown. Are you kidding me? Gimme. And again, look at this. Just the ridiculousness of, look at this walkway here in the arch. Nobody can live. Look, you know how many bricks and time it takes to build all that? Nobody can even live there. No office space. It's built for just glory as a machine, part of the grid. You see the domes, columns, arches, everything. And it's buried. It's flooded by liquid hot. At the X Factor, during the X Factor, that was hot like lava. Look at the detail here, but look at the melting. Ah, I love that. I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this. I mean, look at this. Look at the roof. It is decked out, but look at all the black scorch marks. Look at all the black scorch marks. But look how they did the roofs with the colors like that. Again, it's like eye candy. Oh, come on. It looks like a machine. I mean, look at the detail. It's over the top. Look at the detail in these, in every one of these concrete molds. Whoa. Ooh, look at the red brick. Look at the towers and domes. Just glorious. Oh, come on. I'm sorry, I get excited. I can't help it, okay? It just makes you wish you were living in the old world when it at its, glory point. Just look at the size of the doors and the ceilings and the glory. It's just, I love this. I love that. And again, look at the columns and arches and statues, and nobody can live in that. It's just a machine. I mean, it's enormous. That is a huge undertaking to build, but yet it serves no function except for probably a grid. Look at the tile, how they do the detail with the tile on the floors a lot. If they don't do wood, they'll do this tile. You'll see that. This is glorious. Look at the glory here. Look at this. Columns, arches, the detail, the upgraded concrete molds, the damage, the scorch marks. A highly advanced civilization lived here for thousands of years and was wiped out by an X Factor event. And it's hidden in plain sight. Somebody had to come along and say, hey, these mountains are buildings. Look at the glory. This is just mind-boggling. This is mind-boggling glory. Mind-boggling glory. And again, look at the heat damage. Look what it did to the concrete. Look at this. Look at this statue of concrete mold. It's mind-boggling. Look at the glory here and the detail everywhere you look. And again, it looks like a grid. In the center here is towers. Look at the stained glass, the color. Look at the somatic shape here. Possibly emphasizing the type of frequency that they put out in the organs in there. If this even has organs. In this one, I don't know. Again, look at the glory here. Look at the columns, the domes. And it's absolutely decked out. I mean, look at that. This is, a statue. A concrete mold, most likely. Some type of mold. Look at the arches. It's just glorious. It's another mindset. I mean, this is from the old world. Again, there were beings that, had different animal heads on human bodies, and then human heads on animal bodies. I mean, it was just a vessel. Look at the arches and the domes and the size of the ceilings and the glory. Look at the detail here. It's literally mind-boggling. And again, more signs of advanced civilization. Is she playing music here? Is she on a iPad, laptop, cell phone? Is that a cell phone? Look at the detail. Look at this building here. Look how small the people are. What function does it serve other than glory and a machine on a grid? Look at the melting from the bottom here. This is inherited. This is all inherited from the old world, the Tartarian Empire. It was the same everywhere, all over the world. There was no disconnect anywhere at all. There was no discovering this over there and that. It was established for thousands of years. Look at the glory here. A highly advanced civilization did this. Not a bunch of cavemen. Cavemen did not do this. Or this. Or that. Or that. That is glorious. Look at the woodwork. I mean, that is some it's eye candy. It's just constant eye candy. Everywhere you look, eye candy. Of course it got damaged. Eye candy. I mean, that is eye candy. Eye candy. Tell me that ain't eye candy. I mean, look at the stained glass here. Every inch of this place is eye candy. Eye candy. Eye candy. Eye candy. Look at this. Dude. Looks like a dress. And again, the grid got hot and the ground got loose and it melted. And then again, like I said, something cooled it off very fast and it hardened again because it is concrete and it stayed up. And this is not the only building, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, that did this. There are many buildings that did this, as you will see soon. I will show you. Eye candy. Eye candy. Look at the woodwork. Incredible. And again, here's another building leaning over, and it hardened again, and it's still standing because it's concrete. Look at the tile work there. I mean, looks like somebody painted on the tile. I don't know. Look at this eye candy here, the stained glass. Nobody builds like that anymore. Look at the wood. Nobody does this. This is all inherited. This is all from the old world. Look at that stairway. Oh my goodness, look at the arches. Look at the stairway, how it just melts down like that. I love that. That is very, very stylish. Oh, eye candy. It's just decked out everywhere. Eye candy decked out. Just completely decked out. Eye candy. A depiction. And, again, this is probably what it looked like everywhere, all over the world. Like that. From the old world here. Look at that. On the left, new world. On the right, old world. It's superior looking. It's highly advanced. Makes us look like cavemen. Look how decked out that is. That is just glorious. Eye candy. Glorious. Look at that organ. Glorious. Wow. That's glorious. Jacked. Look at that. Look at this. It looks like wrinkles in this. Look at the slide here. You can walk up the stairs here. You want to come down fast? Come down that smooth, shiny wood slide. It's beautiful, gorgeous. Look at the woodwork. It's mind-boggling. Look at this organ here. Now look how that could put out some frequencies. Look at that weird arch shape. Wow. I wonder what's going on with that. That's definitely going to influence some vibrations from the organ. And so that's just glorious. Eye candy. Eye candy. Look at the detail. Look at the arches here, red brick. Towers to the dome. Towers. And this depiction is just mind-boggling. It looks so real. And again, this is what the old world looked like everywhere. You got a statue here. You got a dome. You got a building. You have a bridge going to this building. You have a bridge going to that building and a bridge going to that building. You got towers. You got 4 towers around a dome. They're all domed. They're all arched. They're all columns. You have platforms here underneath, but yet opened to see out. Platform here. Another bridge here. Another bridge here. Looks like The Fifth Element, doesn't it? The movie The Fifth Element. And that's how they depict the futuristic world, which is really like the old world, which was a highly advanced civilization, which would be more of a future for us, hopefully, one day. Look at the glory here, but yet look at the damage. The burned scorch marks. So let's continue our exploration of our reality and continue to examine the evidence of buildings being melted and damaged by some type of X factor event. Let's continue to look at the evidence on how the old world, highly advanced civilization, was wiped out by some event. I like to call what you see here a pocket of survival. What you see is the top of the building is over here is coming down on this building. This building here, it's being melted by this building, and it's hot melted lava rock that's flowing onto it. It's getting hot. It's eating up this building. This building's getting hot itself. This building is completely mangled and hot. It's gonna be a rocky mountain is all that's left. But thankfully, the heat stopped real fast, and we're able to see what the building looked like before it was turned into a rocky-looking mountain. So you have these mountains here, but they're really melted buildings. And again, more melted buildings. You have little pockets of survival that allow us to see that these were buildings and what they looked like before. The concrete was just dripping and forming a rock curtain, one after the other, concealing itself behind the rock curtains. So we can't tell that it was a building. But you can see the arches here, the columns, everything. And you can see how it has melted over itself, concealing that it was a building before all of this happened. As you notice, the vegetation likes to grow out of the old, softer sand of the liquid building. Areas that were melted hot like lava before were thoroughly cooked, and it's nice and loose for the roots. And as you can see here, the domes of these buildings completely melted like ice cream. Very nice columns here, though. All vegetarian concrete molds were jacked. And again, look how small these people are here. I mean, look how small they are. Look at the doorway. Look at the door. I mean, you gotta be kidding. Look at the window. Look how big that window is. You gotta be kidding me. look at the door in the window. And look how small he is. He's supposed to be up here. Looking out the window up there. You look out the window about right there in the window. And then you want to walk in. Right up in here. Grab the handle. All this liquid building is melted. Hot like lava. All the building has been melted, but we have a pocket of survival here that lets us know what it looked like. And then you can see the damage coming up the wall from the hot melted liquid lava that was at the X Factor event. During the X Factor event, this was all hot lava. And you could see the heat damage from the bottom, how it's mangled, the bottom columns and so forth from the heat. And then the top, you could see where it was viscous and pulling apart, separating and forming holes. And again, down here, you see what's left of what all of it used to look like. You see the tops of the buildings here. You see the melting, you see it flowing, the A-frames, and you see it completely covering itself, except for this little portion here that it, luckily for us, it didn't cover, and we can see what it looked like before. That's how we know it's buildings. There it is. That's what it used to look like. And again here, you have the buildings coming over itself, melting, hiding and concealing itself with rock curtains. See how you would have never known that was a building there? See the building down here getting covered. See this getting covered. It's all being covered and melted and hot from the bottom here as well. And this is a pocket of survival. That's what the entire thing used to look like. That's how we know it was a building and not a mountain. And it's a damaged, heat damaged buildings. And again, you have heat damaged buildings melted at the top, forming rock curtains. It's all melted. It's incredible. Columns, arches. And again, down here, look at the arches and the columns. It was all buildings turned into sand and mud. Literally turned into sand and mud, except for some of the structure of it. It didn't. And then this is all up here, a pocket of survival. Excuse me. All this was melting. See how it's flooded? It's all flooded and it's melted. It's in its own liquid melted because all this was building and it's flooded. This is a building here. See how it melted out there? This was all liquid hot and it got cooked in like a liquid building lava. And again, look down here on the left. You have columns, you have arches, you have domes, and you have holes where it was pulling apart because it was viscous. Again, you can see the brick lines here. You can see that was all a building before it was completely heat damaged. Just incredible damage. Look at the rock curtain concealing that was a building. Again, look at the doorways, the arches. This building is completely melted and mangled and dripping and flooded in hot liquid lava. All the concrete molds are melted and mangled and scorched. The damage is compelling. And look at all the buildings here and the brick lines. You see brick lines after brick lines, pancaked brick lines, tops of the buildings. All that was hot liquid flowing. All the heat from the bottom is forming A-frames. All the heat's coming up. You could clearly see windows, arches, brick lines. All these were buildings, towers, domes. You can clearly see these are damaged buildings. And they're everywhere all over the flat plain, the world. Another pocket of survival here. All the building around it is melted and has maintained this so we know what it used to look like. And again, look at the heat from the bottom. Again, what happened is all this during the X Factor event was hot like a flowing hot liquid lava. And it got to where it was coming in and out up on the wall here. And it would melt it. See the viscousness, how hot it was. And this is a pocket of survival. See how it was pulling apart, separating from the heat, melting. And we have a pocket of survival here. This is how we know what the whole thing used to look like before it got damaged. And again, arches, columns, and it's just completely melted all the way up the side of the building and flooded in its own liquid mess. See the brick lines here. What you can see is this was all a building, but it's been melted and heat damaged. Again, this was all a building, and it's been literally covered and submerged by the building is just covering it and submerging it. And for the most part, you would never know that was there because it would look like that. But it didn't cover itself enough. And this is how we know what it used to look like. It's a pocket of survival. It was a building. And again, I don't know what... Again, they had this building. There's a dome here. It's a dome, but it's like a face on like a sphinx or something. These are all brick lines. Again, this building has been turned into mud. It's just been liquefied. You can see clearly the brick lines. You can see that this is in a shape of a human head and a sphinx animal body. A building made to look like a sphinx. And again, look at the domes, towers of the domes, and the buildings all around have melted down. And this is, and then it hardened and caught itself in between these two buildings that have been moving from the ground, moving and being viscous and melting hot from the grid meltdown. And it hardened back up and caught this self in between here and hardened again. See the melting here and it hardened again. Just incredible. From the X Factor event. And again, if you can just think back to the X Factor event, and you'll see all this is hot, flowing like a liquid lava. It's all flooding itself. This is flooded. This is way taller. And again, look, watch. It overflowed into here. See, some went this way, some went down here. This is coming around, flowing down and down this way. So, dude, you got the arches. This is all from the whole world. This is a pocket of survival, submerged in its liquid building that's submerged. This is all brick lines, and this is the building up here that got damaged by the X Factor event as well. And again, on the left here, you can see the damage. Turned the building into that, like, mud. And then this building here is turned into mud, and the top of it's sticking up. It's all was flowing in hot liquid building. All that building, all those buildings back there have been melted down into mud. And again, look at this building. It just started expanding. As soon, excuse me, as soon as the side of this building got hot enough, as soon as it became viscous and gave way from a solid state to a liquid state, it swells out. It balloon rocks, it marshmallows. And then it hardened again. It separates, forms these holes. But you can still see the brick lines of the building. People think they built on top of this and carved it on a mountain. This is a damaged building, okay? Turned into what you call mountains. Again, that was all melted building. Look at the brick lines here. Again, all mountains are melted buildings. Look at that. Look at it. That was buildings. And again, look, melted buildings. They think these are cliffs. This is a building here that got damaged by heat. See the window here? See the brick? This was all perfect red brick. It's all black and heat damage. There's the top of it with the antenna and the helmet. They had these wireless looking helmets. Same with that look just like that on the buildings too. This towers to the dome technology. Look what happened to that building there. Look at the doorway. And again, this building just completely, it just melted. It's just all completely flooded and melted in its own liquid hot mess. The top of buildings here. The reason you have gorges and gullies and gorges and all that, that's in between buildings. These are buildings here. See the A-frame, see how it's floating, melted down. See how it melted down here? Everything is hot, melted buildings, melted down by the grid. Totally damaged by the X Factor event. Again, all this was buildings, and it melted down over itself, forming rock curtains, and we have little pockets of survival. Nobody carved that in there. It's buildings that damaged, and it's been covered and melted up and hardened up like rock and concrete, because that's what it was. And you can clearly see the tops of the buildings that they continue to live in, that didn't get completely damaged, like the bottom here. Pockets of survival. That's how we know that it was all buildings, that all mountains were buildings. They're melted buildings. All mountains are melted buildings. Again, look at the brick lines, how it just sank into the ground and liquefied. Again, you clearly have brick lines, pancake brick lines, domes, brick lines, wavy brick lines. What's left? Pocket of survival of this damaged building. Pocket of survival. It's melting over itself. It's forming a rock curtain. It's melting. It's coming over itself, covering it up. But it stopped, and you can see what it all used to look like before it melted on itself. Again, same here. These are all buildings here. You have the openings, the arches, the doorways. It's all formed rock curtains and melted on itself. Pocket of survival. All melted buildings. Rock curtains melting over itself. All melted buildings. All melted buildings. Pocket of survival. Somehow this didn't melt like the rest of it. It survived. But that's how we know what it used to look like. Look at all the damage here. Look at the columns. This was all a beautiful building, and look at it now. Again, you can literally see the red brick melting into the concrete. Molds that go over the red brick. Look at the brick lines here. Look at the arches. Look at the. This is all melted buildings, damaged by the X Factor event. And look how it came and melted. Again, so all this was liquid flowing hot, like lava. And it flowed around and down this. And that's how it survived. But all this flowed over that, damaging everything else. And when it densified, you get these thoroughly cooked fine grains of sand. Desert. Pockets of survival. Look at the tops. Look at the roof here. Brick roof. Concrete molds. Columns. It's a melted building. Completely melted by the X Factor event. All red brick melted. Columns down here. It was all melted over this building. And it didn't melt all the way over the rest of itself. It just didn't melt the rest of the way. And that's how we know what it looked like. Same here. Melting over itself, and it stopped and hardened real fast for some reason. Possibly that intense lack of energy from two suns to one sun, excuse me. Used to having two suns, and now you only have one. Boom, it just freezes in midair and hardens that concrete. And again, you got the buildings, A-frames, and then the buildings and the towers just completely look like they were submerged in some hot flowing liquid building lava, and it thoroughly cooked them into dirt and mud. And this is absolutely some of the best evidence ever, folks. You have the building melting over itself, and it just didn't melt all the way over itself here. It maintained, see the arch here? See that it's melting over itself here? See it just completely melting. You would never know that that was a building. It's consuming itself. It's quite incredible evidence here. That was all a building, and you can literally see it melting like a wave, like a landslide, except it's melted building and lava. Melted building that flows like lava. And again, look at the heat damage here. It just explodes and balloon rocks out, marshmallows out. When it becomes liquid, it just expands from that heat expansion, and then it hardened again. Here we go, pocket of survival. The building completely melted except for this part of it from the X Factor event. Same with that. It was all hot lava, melted building around it, thoroughly cooked everything from the heat. But somehow a little bit of it survived because of this wall here or something. Kept out, and it only came up this high on the building here. Look at how it just melted over itself here, forming rock curtains. Look at the melting. It just melted the concrete. Just completely melted the concrete. Look at the heat from the bottom here. Just completely melted the brick, red brick. Completely melted it. And the heat came up from the bottom here, mangling this red brick tower. Look what it did to it. Again, they're going to be like, oh, they built on top of this rocky mountain here. How? How? It's clearly damaged. Look at it. They didn't build on top. It was there and it got damaged. You can see the incredible damage here. And where it's not level, most anywhere, if it's not perfectly level and flat, it's probably your unmelted liquid building that hardened back up again. Here we have some red brick here that's all been melted into liquid building. And when it cooled down and densified, it looks like this mud and sand. But it was all liquid building. I don't know about that. That could have been like that looks like some water flow there, but who knows. But here, look at this. Check out what it did. Again, more evidence of how it turns these buildings. It's all liquid building. It turns the building into that like a mud. It looks like a mud flood, but it's not. It's the entire building is submerged in liquid building. Up this high. Look at this submerged in liquid building. Look, it cooked the building underneath itself. It cooked itself. Look what it did to the red brick there. Again, if it's not level, other buildings around it got melted and hot and flowed around these other buildings. And that's what it looks like. It looks like a mud flood, but it's these buildings that literally melt, and then they start to flow around and flood other buildings. You see it over and over again. Buildings getting melted and flooding on other buildings. Or themselves around themselves. And look how it cooks it. From the heat. Look how it cooks. Literally cooks it. From this hot liquid melted building that it was submerged in. Looks like a mud flood now, but it was all melted liquid building. Flowing. Look at that. Flowing in between buildings. Liquid building. Flowing. Submerging and flooding. Buildings everywhere. And then it cools off and densifies, and you get this. Looks like a mud flood. Look. Horses. Using horses. And again, look. All liquid melted building. They're taking it away to clean up the flooding of the liquid melted building mess. See how it flooded on this side here? Came down this way and scorched the color out of the red brick here. Oh my, look at that. Liquid building flowing. And again, the building was turned into what looks like a mud flood, but this is all buildings. Look at the brick lines. Look at the A-frames from the melting. All melted and then flooded by itself. And again, let's really take a good gander here. What you see here is it's being flooded here by this hot liquid melted building all the way around. It's kind of being flooded a little bit. But then on top, it's melting down from the top into what looks like mud. But they're calling this a mud flood. Like, how'd the mud jump to the top? No, the top of the building's melted and it's turned in to what looks like mud. See the brick lines and the arches and the windows and door openings? This is all building, brick lines, turned into mud by the X Factor event. And again, check out this building here, what's left of it at the top that didn't get turned into mud. But it was all hot liquid building, lava, and it thoroughly cooked the building, and it cooked it into this. When it densified real fast, it wasn't cooked in enough into rock, and it was still moist, and it looks like mud. There it is, look, melting from the top as well. It's not mud. Mud flood didn't miraculously fly up to the top of the building here. It's melted buildings that looks like mud now. Look, again, look at this building. This is a building damaged and melted. Look at the melting coming down around it. You can see it, what it used to look like before it got melted and turned into this mud. It got turned into this. This was a gorgeous building. Look at the dome and again, look at this one. Again, this building is literally turned into mush and mud. It's nothing left but sand, mud, and mush. But this was a building. This is absolutely a building. Liquefied. Look, this is a building completely liquefied. As you can see, it's melting out this way. But this building, you can still see it before it melted it and cooked it into this mush. Right now, it's literally cooking any solids. It's cooking them into a liquid right now at this point, and then until it densified and stopped real fast so we could see this. Again, red brick getting melted and flowing. You got all this was hot. Buildings, look at the buildings turned into mud and dirt and sand because it was all liquid hot. Look at the brick here. Look what it did to the brick. That was all red brick. That was all red brick. You can see the brick. It cooked it into mud and dirt because all that was all hot like lava. Again, you can see it melted and flowing. Look, it's all melted. It's a melted mush. Everything is melted building. Excuse me. So here, you completely see damage all the way up on this pyramid. You see a liquid building melted all the way around it, completely hot and liquid melted building. Looks like a mud flood. You can see the buildings here, how they have been overrun and flowing down, forming these rock curtains over the building behind it. You can still see some of the building, but either way it melted it all. All the building's been completely melted up by the heat from that flowing liquid building, all flowing outward and being melted. All building being melted and liquefied, turned into dust, dustified. Look at the arches and brick lines and columns. And this is what happened to a lot of the buildings. It's not a mud flood. These buildings have been turned into this rock and mud and dirt and sand. And these were buildings. Look at it. Look at the brick here. It was all red brick. It's been melted, submerged in hot liquid building. Look at the flow. Look at the flow. Look at the damage to the buildings. Look at the top of the buildings and how it melted down and out over other buildings. And then it somehow left some of these buildings around, even though it pretty much didn't leave much. But you could see that those were buildings there, and it's just turning everything into that. You can see that you could just completely see the building brick line there. It's pretty easy. Window line there, columns and arches there. The place has been completely flooded. Windows there of a building, what's left of it. It's all damaged. Everywhere you look when you do the research and you have the eyes to see, everywhere is damage and destruction of some old world, highly advanced civilization wiped out by some X Factor event. Here it is. These were all beautiful buildings from a highly advanced civilization, and here they are, melted like ice cream, turned into dirt, sand. Pocket of survival. Talk about a real oasis. Again, it's come down and flooded all around this little building here and kept a little oasis of survival. Pocket of survival. Look at the grid, how it looks like a grid. Look at how soft and smooth it is from all the melting and flooding. A-frames. Again, see the melting. It looks like it forms these A-frames. Incredible evidence. Look at the melting. Just incredible melting. All flowing like ice cream this way. Just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Look at that. Just some huge structures here. Columns. Huge. Melted like ice cream. You can see where it flowed and which way it was flowing. And then here you can see the wave that was flowing that way, coming onto the grain here. Coming onto the grain here, flowing onto it. Flowing. Look, a little oasis. That got submerged though, and damaged, cooked from the hot liquid melted building at the time. And again, this was all perfect red brick. Look what happened to the brick. Looks like mud to me. Cooked into mud. Cooked. Thoroughly cooked. All this. Look at the melted red brick. It thoroughly cooked these buildings. It thoroughly cooked them good. Look at that. It cooked it into blocks there. Look at the damage. Look at the arches of red brick here. Look at the flowing and the A-frames and the damage. You can still see the red brick and how it was liquid hot during the X Factor event. Red brick melted hot, damaged, completely melted the red brick. And here's the red brick with some white exterior concrete finish, how it melted for the most part. And here, all this building is liquefied and melted. You can see the melting. You can see the flow. Brick lines here. Look at what's left of this building. It looks like it's been just submerged in hot liquid building and cooked into this mud when it densified. Look, these are all tops of buildings. Melted. Look at the brick lines and the arches. Look at the melting. Look at the A-frames. Wow, look at that melting. Wow, you could see really see the flow and how it was melting and became smooth in certain areas. Look what happened to that red brick. Melted. Melted. Look at the brick lines. Look at the melting. And again, this isn't melting, but again, when these buildings, after the X Factor event ceased and cooled off, some of these buildings were just cooked, and they haven't settled, and they're just cooked into this loose sand, and they haven't settled, and they start to settle and flow, and they landslide, and that's how you get these mudslides, landslides, earthquakes, etc. It's all unsettled buildings. All of that, everything I said is unsettled buildings. And again, look, this is all liquid hot buildings submerging itself. And another leaning tower of Pisa, because the ground got hot. The grid got hot, melted, and it leaned over. You could see how the red got cooked down that way thoroughly. Domes, brick lines, buildings submerged in hot. Again, look, this is all brick lines of buildings, and look what it got cooked into. It got cooked into this mud. Looks like mud, but that's all buildings, melted buildings. It's all melted buildings. It was viscous separating, forming these holes here. All melted buildings. Everywhere you look, flooded by other melted buildings. Red brick, everywhere you look. Melted buildings, flooded by other melted buildings. Melted buildings, flooded by other melted buildings. And again, look, you can tell that's the building. It has the same dome, how it comes up to the dome, brick lines, towers. It's got it all. It's all of buildings. All melted buildings. And again, look what happened to the red brick here. Look at this window here. This used to be a window. There's the arch. Look what it did to the red brick in the building. It turned it in to that. Look what it did to the red brick. It melted it and expanded out all the bricks. Turned it into, look at the flow here. Look at the damage here. Look at the mudslide here. Landslide, because it's all loose, unsettled, melted buildings. Look, it's all melted buildings, loose, and it's unsettled. Everywhere you go, you're on liquid, you're on loose, unsettled, melted buildings. Everywhere you go. Look, see what happens to each and every one of these buildings, how they landslided out. Everyone, almost everyone landslided out. It's all loose. It's all melted buildings, unsettled. You got to be careful what you're doing when you build. Look at all this is unsettled. Look how it landslided. Unsettled, melted buildings. And I've been here. Bishop's Castle. Lived on this mountain before. Towers, domes. It's all melted, submerged in itself. Other liquid buildings. The red brick's been completely cooked into, looks like stone. It's from the old world. And this was all flowing down up to the window here. And this is all melted, flowing. And again, there's a whole section coming on how a lot of these buildings got turned into crystals. Look, see, this was all flowing, melted red brick buildings, and it got crystallized. And we'll get into all that. It's a lot of stuff. And here you can really see the orange and the black scorch marks and the melting. You can really see the brick lines of the buildings damaged and melted here and overflowed on itself. It's all melted buildings everywhere. Had a grid meltdown. Look at the flowing when it was viscous and hot. And then it hardened back up into rock again, because that's what it was. It's all melted buildings. And again, here you can see how it's melted around pyramids. All melted around, flooded by melted building. Again, that's somebody on a bike coming down a building here. On a bike. It's insane. But this is all melted buildings. And again, look. You got this hot, charred black melting here, turned into stone, but this was all melting out that way. And then you got buildings here. All this building got hot and turned into this mud. There's a person right there. There's a window, brick lines, completely square buildings mangled by the X Factor event. Mangled by the X Factor event. Look at the brick lines. This is amazing here to see all these buildings melted here like this. You can see all these different brick lines. And then you can see how it's just, whoops. I didn't mean to do that. You can see how it's just melted, flowing. It was hot. I accidentally grabbed that. Now will you work, please? Thank you. And this is just fantastic here. What you see is this building was flowing and melting this way, and layer by layer, it would, as you can see here, it collects layer after layer. A rock curtain would flow like lava, but it's melted building. It's concrete. As you can see, it's just concrete. It got hot. It's all melted building. Layer after layer, it would collect and build up. You could walk under that curtain right there. It's a literal concrete rock curtain. Look at all the layer. Notice how it flowed layer after layer over itself here. Can you see this? Evidence of it flowing over itself, layer after layer here, and hardening back up into concrete, because that's what it was. All liquid hot melted buildings, a grid meltdown. See the flowing liquid building, looks like a mud flood, looks like a circuit board on a motherboard of a computer. All liquid building melted. All melted. A pocket of survival here. It melted all around this area. Oasis. A literal oasis. Notice the red brick underneath, and then it's been upgraded and updated with concrete molds attached over it. But all around it, melted hot building. And again, look what happens. This was all liquid hot melted building. Look what happened to the concrete and brick. And again, all this was hot liquid building, and it flooded all around this building and did not get into this part of the building here. See the arches here? And again, you still see the buildings loose, unsettled, and they landslide. And again, this is completely building. It's liquid and melting down and around this building this way, flowing down this way, and being flooded by hot. It's a pocket of survival, beautiful arch here, little people here. All this is building getting flooded in hot liquid building. Cooked, melted, submerged. Notice it's all melted buildings. Flooded. Again, all this completely melted. It looks like mud, but it's just melted. Melted. Look, melted. See the brick lines here? All building after building. Melted. And see this flowed? It was flowing, and then it hardened back up into concrete, because that's what it is. But it was flowing. All this was flowing liquid concrete, and then it hardened back up. It cooled off, hardened up, densified, and there it is. That's concrete. That was flow. You can see it's flowing concrete. And again, all this was flooded by itself in hot liquid building. Grid meltdown. All this below is thoroughly cooked. All this buried and flooded and melted and hot liquid building. Look at that. Turn that red brick into what looks like mud there. Sand. I mean, look. This is an arch, arch, arch. There's red bricks. That's the corner. Comes down. Columns, columns, columns. It all got turned into sand and dirt and mud and dust. Defied. Again, this is all buildings melted. It's coming up, forming A-frames. The heat from being submerged in this hot liquid red melted brick building, lava, it's just coming up. It's hot. And it's the roof, all this are just a bunch of houses and buildings. And it's just all melted. Look, all melted. Look, all melted from heat. Hot, submerged, melted, flooded. All flooded in liquid hot melted building. You can still see the brick lines and the arches and the towers and the columns and the domes, and it's all melted buildings everywhere you go. Look at this. All melted buildings, brick lines after brick line. Liquid building, hot, submerged, melted red brick. All hot, liquid, melted building and flooding other buildings and being turned into sand, mud, and melted. All submerged in liquid building. Look, that's all melted red brick and buildings and concrete. Look, flooded itself. And there's one of these little statues of the Sphinx. Human head, lion body. They had all these different beings, vessels, didn't matter. And look what happened to the brick lines. Completely melted into the ground, downward. And this kind of looks like it was churning hot. It just took the brick lines and just started churning them up into like a circle. It was brick lines. Cooking it. And again, it's not straight here. It's not level. Because it's been flooded by hot liquid melted building. Just like this has. Flooded by hot liquid melted building. From the grid meltdown. See the A-frames here? See this building here? Completely turned into dust and mud. And it was hot. Melting. Again, this building is sinking into the ground because it got hot from the grid meltdown. And look, it's leaned into this house. It's completely digging into this house wall here. It's insane. I mean, all the evidence is compelling. Now, again, this is not mud. This is this building here, the top of the building, and that's just how far it got hot and melted this concrete. That's all hard as a rock. And it flowed. It's concrete. That's hard as a rock. It's a rock curtain. It formed. A rock curtain. Again, look at the red brick, literally liquefied into what looks like mud. Again, mud didn't magically fly up to the top of the building. It's melted into it. It's just gotten melted by the X Factor event. And again, they're in here, all this liquid building, and they're in here mining it. And we'll get to that later, of how all these different things were created by the X Factor event. You got gold, crystals, quartz, coal, all kinds of different things from different heat and pressure of these buildings by the X Factor event were cooked. You have red brick literally crystallized, and they're mining it. Now, all the brick lines here, the heat was coming up from the bottom. All these buildings melted.
I find in my research is that the old world is what I find is a new world. Survivors of the old world coming in, recouping, finding any technology left over. And what it looks like is a new world developing, coming in, finding remnants of the old world technology and so forth, And then what I find is a clear agenda to actually confiscate whatever technology that was remained from the old world. So it appears agents of the parasites were going around collecting, confiscating, scooping up any old world technology. For example, this looks like these are field generators creating fields that let it levitate mass objects. And what we see is what looks like a new world coming in and using the old world technology, and before it was eventually confiscated and hidden away. You don't see these anymore, do you? Even though it was in the paper here. His Greyhound of the Air, or the search for him, again, remnants of the old world. Remnants of the old world. And then the new world coming in, the new world order, the survivors of the X Factor event, finding this technology and information from the old world. As you can see here, this looks like it's from the old world. It's technology, information that we don't have anymore. Obviously, we have air balloons, but the other field generators, levitating, you don't see. You see remnants of the old world. For example, the Titanic. They had to get rid of that. Ran on steam. You get a huge bang for your buck. Just a little bit of wood. Flying saucers scooped up as well, in my view, which is levitation technology as well from the old world. Here it looks like some technology from the old world remained intact, and perhaps you can see further and hear further away here with this listening devices and seeing devices. Here we see a magnificent structure, the detail, the arches. It's just mind-boggling. Then you see these people coming in, enjoying it. Again, horse buggies, people coming in. You see towers, you see magnificent structures, survivors of the old world coming back in, finding what's left from the old world civilization, highly advanced civilization, coming back in, finding what is left, the infrastructure that has not been destroyed by the X Factor event, looking in wonder. What are they using? Horses, horse-drawn buggies to carry some hay. What, they're using hay? That's what we see here. We see damaged roads. We see pretty much vacant emptiness here. There's not much happening. What you clearly can see is just incredible domes, towers to the domes, architecture, arches, that just doesn't match what you see here. This year is not matching this year. Again, you have survivors or new world order generation coming in and moving in to the infrastructure from the old world, and clearly you can see how this doesn't match this. And again, you see down here below, horse-drawn buggies. They're starting to get automobiles now. And what you see is this incredible architecture and building just not matching what you see down here. Not to mention you see the building that half of the window below is flooded by the liquid melted building around it.
And so another thing you don't see matching is the road itself is dirt. You have this incredible architecture, but they don't know how to make a road. They can make this, but not a road. No, you see the flooded damage from liquid building around it, surrounding it, flooding it from the X Factor event. Again, more and more people discovering art, infrastructure, and architecture of the old world, discovering it in awe and amazement and happiness, and just wondering what is going on here. Again, down here, no horses, but well, yeah, I guess right here that's a horse. And then, but you're starting to see the automobile now. But again, it's still not even close to what we see here. The roads don't match. The automobiles, nothing is matching this incredible, beautiful architecture from the old world. Again, here we go again. Just incredible architecture, but they don't know how to make a road. But all they have is horses. It just doesn't match, because they're a new world coming in, starting over fresh, finding old world infrastructure. That's right. And again, just more example of how these infrastructure was built for beings quite a bit taller. Look how tall this gazebo is, for example. And they're just coming in. Look at them. Does any of this match the buildings over here on the left? They're just coming in. Again, check it out. They're just coming in, finding this infrastructure, which is damaged all around the bottom, flooded by liquid melted building, by the X Factor event. That's why the road here, it's not a road. It doesn't match the building. The truck here doesn't match the building. The clothes, none of it matches, because they're coming in and starting to fill in the infrastructure from the old world. They're coming in, finding this, and again, residual technology from the old world, scooped away, electric vehicles, and this is a long time ago. A long time ago, they had electric vehicles. And again, you see incredible architecture. You see people coming in, just doesn't match the architecture at all. You see just mind-boggling, just glorious looking architecture. I mean, this is just mind-boggling how beautiful this is. Even after the X Factor damage. Just look at the glorious arches here, towers to the domes and materials and molds, and it's just mind-boggling. And then what do you see? You just see it's just not matching. Nothing's matching. You see people coming in, hanging out, sitting around, finding this incredible architecture that is built for somebody huge compared to them. Look how small they are compared to these archways. They're down here. Again, you see it just doesn't match. It's a new world, and they're coming in and inhabiting these infrastructures that have been destroyed and devastated by some X Factor event. And again, on what you see here is it just looks like it's all destroyed. You see a messed up column here. You see people coming in, sitting on steps, just hanging out with the dog. Everything's messed up and destroyed, and they're just coming in and hanging out here, finding destruction, and then re-inhabiting these old world infrastructure. Everything here was already here. Christopher Columbus didn't discover anything. All these railroads, buildings, everything was here already from the old world. The Tatarian Empire that preceded us, a highly advanced civilization, preceded us for at least 1900, a couple thousand years. And then 600 years later, possibly after they've been wiped out, here we are. And look at the small people down here. Look at the size of these columns and the infrastructure. Again, look at the damage over here, down here at the left. You have these horse-driven buggies, these cheap-looking cars that look like they would fall apart if they were to do more than 40 miles an hour. Structural integrity, wouldn't be able to handle it. It just doesn't match the glory of this architecture. These people here did not build that. You can see that clearly. Please, clearly, you can see that this horse-drawn buggy here, the damaged, flooded buildings. Again, you can see the incredible architecture here, but they don't know how to make a road and a sidewalk that's flooded. You got horses here. It just doesn't match, because this is all from the old world, and the new world generation is coming in and finding this glorious infrastructure that remained intact after the X Factor event from the old world. Look at the columns here. Look at the twin towers here, columns, towers to the domes, arches, column after column. It's glorious. It looks like a machine on a motherboard of a computer, Look at this. Glorious. The fountains are still intact. Please notice the fountains and irrigation system is still intact and flowing. Please notice here, excuse me, how they're finding all this damage. And again, what you need to understand, what they're using here compared to this, they're using wood compared to what you see around here. It just doesn't match. Clearly, possibly finding this stuff here from the old world still intact. But then you see the wood here showing you how it just doesn't match. The new generation coming in, starting over. They're using wood. They don't use all this concrete here. They're not there yet. And again, what you're seeing here is a new generation, a new world, finding incredible old world architecture and infrastructure. As you can see, all this is damaged and flooded, and you can build this, but yet you don't know how to make a parking lot with some nice pavement and clean and clear. No, that's not what happened. They're finding this. This is architecture, a machine that looks like a motherboard on a computer, columns, everything. They're finding this, and they're finding pockets. It's a pocket of survival. And they're in awe. They're lining up to see what's inside this residual stuff from the old world, hidden away from us nowadays. Again, it looked to me like they had it set up like an amusement park. Everything was set up to be fun, roller coasters. This is all inherited from the old world. To prove my point again, a post office, Berlin, Ontario, supposedly built in 1885. It's nonsense. The population in 1871 is only 2,700 people. And this is what they would build for them? No, this is clearly from the old world. Towers, arches, red brick. Again, now, post office, Kitchener, Ontario, built 2009. Population in 2016 census, 233,000 people compared to 2,700. And look at this shack is all they need for this many people, but yet they had to have this for this many people. Think people, you know that this is nonsense. This is inherited from the old world. They didn't build this. Look at that horse down here. You think they built that? It doesn't match. When today, this is all they built for the post office? Exactly. And again, look at these structures that these people are coming in and inheriting and going, wow, this is amazing. Do you know what it would take to build this? We can't do this. Who did this? There's no office space here. There's no apartment space here. Why would you build this? This is a huge undertaking. It doesn't match the mainstream narrative because it's nonsense. I'm telling you the truth. What you see here, what do you see here? They're doing laundry over here. They're coming in, finding a destroyed infrastructure from a highly advanced civilization. Look, they're hanging sheets over here. Coming in and finding this destroyed infrastructure. Starting over. It's glorious.
Thank you for watching the documentary, When the Buildings Cried. You have just completed part 2. You are now 50% through the documentary, halfway through. Please continue to part 3. The link will be provided for you conveniently in the description below. Just click on that to continue the documentary, When the Buildings Cried. Thank you.